Hi, my name is Dan, and welcome back to All One, the United Anatomy of Being. This is episode 30, called How We Got Here. And we just spent the last 3 episodes exploring and trying to gain an understanding of where we are now as a species in this arcing trajectory of physical level motion and existence. But to better comprehend the mind and better comprehend where we are now, it is also important to explore and understand how we got to this point in our development and existence, which I'm going to cover in the next few episodes. So, there has been an immense amount of mental development since we entered the mind level and became more than just physical level beings striving to eat, stay alive, and reproduce, or essentially survive as both individuals and as a species. There has been an immense amount of mental development since we became both physical and mind level beings. Or perhaps said differently, physical and mind level conscious beings. And the defining event that catapulted humans onto the mind level after a few 100,000 years of primarily and simply existing on the physical level was the discovery and development of agriculture. The development of agriculture was a major shift in the human experience and the human existence, because for the first time, humans were able to live sedentary lifestyles as opposed to nomadic ones, roaming the lands in search of food and shelter. Of course, there were many nomads during the early years of agriculture, as well as herders who domesticated goats and sheep around a similar time, and both of whom roamed the lands. And they did for thousands of years after the discovery of agriculture. But farmers were different. Farmers had to plant seeds, tend them, and then wait for them to grow. And for the first time in our species history, humans were less and less on the move, which created continual new problems, continual new opportunities, and the time and necessity to develop continual new solutions as the human mind further developed and grew. Prior to agriculture, humans didn't live in villages. There were no societies and no civilizations. There were no settlements because humans were nomadic hunters and gatherers, living and roaming in very small nuclear groups. But with the development of agriculture, for the first time in history, humans settled down. And by settling down, an explosion into the mind level began. Humans had to build permanent shelters. They needed better tools to cultivate the land. They needed water to move water and irrigate crops. They needed to carry and store food. And now fewer people could obtain more food for more people than any time before in history, which enabled increased probabilities for survival, growing populations, and even more time and necessity to think and develop the mind. One of the most critical effects from the development of agriculture towards the development of the human species where we are today, and our separating trajectory, was specialization. While humans began uniting in the sense of living together in larger groups, interacting more, and sharing more thoughts and ideas, specialization in work was also a major shift towards growing separation. Humans were no longer performing all the same tasks of hunting, gathering, reproducing, and trying to survive. Humans began developing specialized tasks and distributing the growing new workload required of a sedentary lifestyle. There were certainly still hunting and gathering tasks, but now there was farming, building, raw material collection, water collection, harvesting, processing of food, food storage, food distribution, defense, tool making, weapon making, and all the leadership and managerial tasks that go along with any organization of people living and working together. In this process, hierarchies among jobs, people, and their importance began. But time, necessity, and specialization were also critical toward the continual development of both the mind and the human being existing on the mind level. So common language was needed, as well as new words to describe this new life and its growing complexities. Trade developed in simple forms, with now contemporary scholars speculating that the first trade was likely between a farmer and a herder. Rituals and ceremonies were developed for favorable growing conditions and good harvests. And humans began studying the skies to better understand seasonal patterns and ideal planting times. Social norms, rules, and eventually laws, and the consequences of violating social expectations were needed, with more and more humans living together. And tool and idea innovations were needed, with more time, more problems to solve, thus necessity, and more mental development. More ideas were shared, which then further accelerated the development of the mind. And basically, everything that exists in our modern world, and I think I'm going to rattle off quite a long list here, but from language to the written word, to the wheel and mathematics and architecture and astronomy and religion and art and philosophy, educational systems, metal, glass, transportation, new diseases, new medicines, communication, trade, market economies, laws, courts, wars, armies, power, greed, money, wealth, poverty, politics, machines, the onset of the Industrial Revolution, and the continued innovations in every single material product we have used or do use, including airplanes, cars, cell phones, computers, and now our most vast reliance on data and information ever. All stemmed from the development of agriculture. Humans had the brain size and the potential for using its capacity for several 100,000 years. But with the development of agriculture, humans for the first time had the necessity, opportunity, and time to develop it. Of course, there had been other very significant but comparatively minor developments long before this, such as crude tool use, the understanding of fire and how to create it, or the development of crude clothing. But the development of agriculture was undoubtedly the defining event that vastly separated human beings from any other animal or any other hominid species before it. It was undoubtedly the defining event which set the human species directly onto the mind level, mind consciousness, and the undeniably unique summer of our existence. Now, in the next episode, I'll be discussing and exploring a very brief and sort of fast history of human development since the discovery of agriculture. So thank you very much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.